Hello everyone and welcome to another movie review video. This time we're taking a look at The Void, which came out in 2016. A group of people are stuck inside of a hospital because a cult is surrounding the building, but that is just the least of their worries. There are monsters running around, and in the basement of the hospital, there are even more terrible dark secrets waiting for them. I just got done watching it not too long ago, and I'm still not entirely sure how I feel. It's messy while also a bit straightforward at the same time, and I don't know how that makes any sense. I feel like the characters aren't really too strong in this. There are some attempts at character building, and they build a backstory for a couple of the characters. I wouldn't say it really works, but I'm glad that they added some extra info there, and it ties into the story later on in the movie. So I like the attempt, but it just didn't really give me enough to care about. Other than like 2 or 3 of our main characters, no other character really gets built upon more than this is your name, here's what you do. Now just stand there the rest of the movie, haha. My favorite thing about The Void is that it is somewhat of a creature feature. There's a lot of monster/alien things walking and running around and killing people. All of the effects and designs look pretty cool. I'm pretty sure most of it was practical. I didn't really notice any like hardcore, like ugly visual effects in there, and that's always gonna get a thumbs up from me because practical effects make it just look much more fun and cooler. Going back to the characters, I'm going to run down our main group. First up, we have a cop named Daniel who picks up a guy named James tumbling out of the woods, and he drives him to the hospital, and that's where we meet some other characters, and that's where we're going to stay for the rest of the movie. At the hospital, we have Nurse Allison, who has a history with Daniel, which I'll get to that later. There's a nurse named Beverly, which, spoiler, she's not going to last very long. We have a nurse in training/intern named Kim, who's played by Ellen Wong, who plays Knives in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which I just found that out shortly after watching the movie, so that's pretty cool. There's also a young girl who's pregnant named Maggie, and she's there with her grandfather. And then there's a doctor named Richard. Dr. Richard plays a key role in this movie, but you'll learn more about that later. And there are also 2 other characters that stick around throughout the whole movie who are shown in the cold open, and it's never really confirmed what they are to each other or even who they are. It's an older guy and a younger guy. The older dude in the cold open is Vincent, and the younger dude is Simon. When you look up The Void and look at the cast, they are labeled as the father and the son, but when you go to Letterboxd, they actually have names. I'm pretty certain throughout the whole movie, they don't say Vincent nor Simon, and they never specify their father and son. Towards the end, it's sort of hinted that they might be father and son, but also throughout the movie, he's like, oh, those cult people killed the young boy's family, so he's been with me for a while. It's not really set in stone what their relationship is, but from what I've learned, father and son, Vincent and Simon, so I'll just call them by those names. Now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the video, where I run down the movie and we get to see what wacky shenanigans our characters get into. So like I already talked about, in the cold open we have Vincent and Simon. They're shooting at this couple that are leaving their farmhouse or something. One girl gets shot as the other dude named James runs away, and they freaking light her on fire, which is an insane way to start the movie, but hell yeah. And as mentioned earlier as well, Daniel is on patrol. He sees James tumbling out of the woods, covered in blood, so he's like, oh, gotta get him to a hospital. So here we go, on our way to the hospital in the car, wee woo wee woo. The nurses get James on a stretcher and take him to a room, and at the hospital we get introduced to these characters, and we see that Allison and Daniel have a bit of history. So, you know, what's their past like? I don't know, but we'll find out. After Daniel and Allison have a conversation, Dr. Richard comes in, and Dr. Richard says you gotta be chill with her. Things can be a little messy after losing a child, so that confirms that Allison lost a child, so that sucks. And he also goes on to say that he lost a child of his own named Sarah.
When we lost Sarah, I was a mess.
So, sucky situations all around. Another situation that would suck is if, you know, your eyes were being stabbed at with a pair of scissors, but that's what patient Cliff is going through right now because Nurse Beverly has gone insane. Daniel has walked in the room, and Beverly, she's cutting at her face. She's saying things like,
"This isn't my face. It's not me."
Something's up with Beverly. She starts going towards Daniel, but Daniel quickly shoots her. Everybody hears the commotion and goes to check on Beverly. Daniel goes into another room and passes out, but before he passes out, there are some flashes of some overhead shots of some land and something bloody. I don't even know what the hell it is, but he gets woken up, and Dr. Richard or Allison tell him that he had a seizure, which caught me off guard because I thought he just passed out, but nope, apparently he had a seizure. A guy named Mitchell shows up, who I can only assume is like a sheriff, because he comes in to take control, and apparently James has a history of like drug charges, and the blood that was on his shirt wasn't just his blood.
We got a major bloodbath about 20 miles north of here. Looks like he tore the place up like a butcher shop.
James hands over his gun to Mitchell, goes to his police car to try to like radio in and, call his station and tell him what's going on, but the communication system is down or something like that. We then see a mystery person wearing a white outfit.
Hi.
They come out of nowhere and stab Daniel, and then a whole bunch of them start showing up. And while all that commotion is going down, Nurse Beverly's corpse, there's something coming out of it, and it does not look good. Daniel gets back up. They hear James screaming from his room, so they go to check on him, and holy crap, there's a giant alien creature thing in his room right next to him while he is handcuffed to the bed, and they quickly get him out of there, but what the hell is that thing? Beverly, what's going on, girl? Vincent and Simon show up to the hospital because they've been trying to track James down, and they have a little standoff. Everybody's trying to calm each other down. James has Maggie, at knife point. Vincent is pointing his rifle at James. Dr. Richard tries to go to James, but he gets stabbed right in the neck. And a little bit after that, Maggie's granddad comes in clutch and punches James right in the face and knocks him out. After all that happens, the creature is out of James's room and grabs Mitchell and takes him away. The monster is shoving its tentacles into the mouth and eyes of Mitchell. Daniel shows up as well as Simon and Vincent. The creature grows like a head or something, which gives Vincent something to aim at with his rifle. He shoots the whatever the hell it is. Then Vincent and Simon use some axes to put the monster down. They kind of all group up in this one section of the hospital, and Allison and Daniel are talking, and Allison is determined to help deliver Maggie's baby. And Daniel's like, yo, the situation we're in, that's kind of insane. Now, obviously, Daniel thinks this is because Allison lost a baby herself, so she wants to do what she can to help deliver somebody else's baby. But Allison assures him that it's like, hey, no, I'm just, I gotta do my job. So he isn't too thrilled, but he goes along with it. Daniel takes Simon and Vincent to go to his patrol car to try to grab his shotgun and some ammo from the back, but as they go to do it, the Triangle Gang shows up once again. One is able to stab Simon right in the hand, but Daniel is able to shoot the guy right after with a shotgun. In a really cool shot, we see the cult or group of triangle masked people all standing next to the woods with knives just being held out. Pretty freaky, but also kind of cool. The boys are back inside, but when Daniel learns that Allison went out on her own to go find supplies in the hospital, he's pretty pissed. While the boys were out trying to grab the shotgun, we saw that Allison was looking for some medication to give to Maggie, but what she doesn't realize is that she has some unexpected help because Dr. Richard, even though he got stabbed in the neck and was laying on the floor, he is up and walking around. Daniel and Vincent go to search for Allison, and while the two are arguing, this is when we learn that Daniel and Allison are actually married. While out on their hunt for Allison, they hear a phone ringing from an office. The call is coming from the morgue, and when Daniel picks up the phone, it's Richard on the line.
Hello, Daniel.
He talks about Daniel's father, he talks about Allison, talks about Allison's lost child, and he talks about his own lost child as well. Dr. Richard claims that he is going to help all of them.
I'm going to help her. I'm going to help all of you.
While Daniel was on the phone with Dr. Richard, Vincent found like a box full of photos full of like disgusting pictures and culty stuff, so that can't be a good sign. In the collection of photos, there's a picture of James in there, so they go and wake him up since he got knocked out by Grandpa earlier, and they want some answers. James tells them that Dr. Richard is behind all of this cult stuff, and that there were a bunch of sacrifices and killings going down, and he didn't really want any part of it. The trio of Daniel, Vincent, and Simon take poor James down to the basement so they can try and find Dr. Richard. So while the boys are going down to look for Dr. Richard, poor nurse in training / intern Kim has to be there with Maggie as she is really close to giving birth. She's talking to them via walkie-talkie, giving them directions on how to get to the morgue, but it appears that they aren't actually where they think that they are. They find a stairwell that apparently isn't supposed to be there, and it goes even further down. We finally cut to Allison, who is on an operating table, and Richard is with her, but he's messing around with some bloody flesh and putting it into a bowl. And that's, it's pretty gross, dude. But now we're back to Daniel and friends. They are at the bottom of the stairwell, and they're in a room with a giant symbol on the floor. They find a door with a triangle on it, so that can't be too good. We get some more weird flashes of stuff like we saw in the beginning, and it's sprinkled throughout the movie. I guess Daniel was seeing all of this in his head or something like that. Don't entirely know why. Maybe it's because he's worried about Allison, and, the place is getting to him. I don't really know for sure. We cut back once again to Richard and Allison, and Richard is still yapping about stuff. He tells Allison that her child died due to the umbilical cord strangling her baby, but I'm pretty sure that's the last thing she wants to talk about, while in a creepy freaking basement, Dr. Richard, okay? But Richard obviously doesn't give two shits because he apparently has cut his own face off, and he also put something in or attached something to Allison because she looks pregnant, but that is a weird looking belly, and I don't know what the hell I'm looking at here. We now cut back to Daniel because we love going back and forth, and they're in another room, and in that room are a bunch of dead bodies just strung up and laying around all over the place. There's even one dead body who is just repeatedly impaling itself over and over again, which honestly is kind of funny. Sure does seem like it because all the dead bodies start rising up and they're walking towards Daniel and friends, and that is just the biggest uh-oh that I could possibly imagine. James has had enough of this nonsense, so he tries to fight back, but Daniel throws him to the ground, and a dead body is able to yoink James away, and it bashes James's head into the ground. So Allison is in a very unfortunate situation. James and friends, they are possibly about to die. So let's go see how Kim's doing, and oh, she has to do an emergency C-section on Maggie, so that awesome. Kim is freaking the hell out, so Maggie's grandpa tries to talk some sense into her.
Please do this.
Maggie is on her feet and she has just killed her grandpa. She then goes on to say she is happy to carry Richard's child, so what the hell is going on? Kim, obviously being freaked out, goes and locks herself in a room, which is honestly the best thing you could do in this situation. Here's where I feel the movie gets a bit too crowded with, like, the environment playing tricks on our characters. Like, I get why, but also this really didn't feel like it was needed. Simon sees a picture of him and what looks like Vincent as well, and maybe his mother. He's transported into what I assume is like maybe like their old house or something, and he sees Vincent, and Vincent turns around, he's like, this is your fault, you should have protected them, and he lunges at him. They fight for a little bit, but then Simon burns him with a flare, I think, or something like that, and then we're like back in reality, I guess. So I'm not sure if that confirmed that they were father and son, because he was like, you should have protected them, so they gotta be related. So Simon and Vincent are dealing with their own little thing. Daniel opens a door, and he sees Allison on that table that we saw her on earlier. He hears Richard's voice, I guess either in his head or just talking throughout the building, and Richard says that he knows his secret, and that is when Allison lost their child, he seemed relieved, and that's, you know, not very good. However, when Daniel steps away from Allison, she is just this mess of kind of like a creature. She has these tentacles spread across the room, just a giant mess. I guess that is the real Allison, like this is reality. But hopefully Allison is actually gone because Daniel starts hacking away at her with an axe. So hopefully she is that dead monster creature thing. Daniel is now in another dark room and he sees a glowing triangle on the wall. And that son of a bitch Richard just keeps on yapping.
I'm disappointed.
Richard says he defies God and that he refuses to let death be the end and that he plans on getting his daughter back.
I just need one final thing.
Maggie comes from behind Daniel and stabs him in the back. She goes and kneels down in front of Richard, who is now this skinless creature, almost like Vecna from Stranger Things. He tells Daniel that he is about to witness the rebirth of his daughter. The triangle opens up, and he then asks the Abyss to put his daughter inside of Maggie, which I guess the Abyss listens. Maggie falls to the ground, and a big, giant, baby, gross-ass creature monster has exploded from her stomach. Good luck raising that thing, Richard. But have no fear, Simon and Vincent are here to save the day. They come in and they start shooting at the big baby creature. They put up somewhat of a fight, but Vincent is being pulled in to the giant creature, kind of being eaten. The tentacles are launching into his chest, but he pours some alcohol over himself, and Simon throws a flare at Vincent, setting him and the creature on fire. And while he does this, there is a woman holding a baby behind him. I'm assuming that's his mother. Like we saw her in the house when they were like fighting like earlier. I don't know why that's there. I don't even know if she's related to Vincent or Simon. She might just be there because dead people or whatever. But we cut back to Richard and Daniel, and of course Richard, like always, he's yapping about bullshit. He's talking about how powerful he is, but Daniel, with one last attempt to stop all of this, slams an axe into his shoulder, but it really does nothing. Richard tells Daniel that all he has to do is let go, and he'll be able to see Allison again. He says this isn't the end, but Daniel says it is, and then tackles him into the triangle void. The void apparently closes after that, and now Simon is just running away from the giant baby monster. The walls are closing in the basement of the hospital, but Simon is barely able to make it out, but the baby creature is unable to and gets smushed between the walls. Just got reborn and died 5 minutes later. Seems like a skill issue. The sun rises over the hospital, and Simon finds Kim, who is still in the room she locked herself in. But the movie's not over just yet. We see some more dark clouds and, a little spooky imagery or whatever. And we see that Daniel and Allison are together in the void, I guess is what this is. And there is a giant pyramid, and they hold hands, and then that's where the movie ends. So Daniel tackled Richard into the void, it closed the void, killed his reborn daughter, and I guess all the other dead things coming alive in the basement of the hospital. So is, like, Richard dead as well, because he got tackled through a portal to the void? Or is Richard still alive, but he's just in the void doing, void things or whatever? I honestly could not tell you, but you know what? I didn't hate the void, and if they somehow, I really doubt this would ever happen, but if they somehow made a second movie about Daniel and Allison having to escape the void and enter the real world again, I wouldn't be upset. I think that would be kind of funny. The more I've been talking about the movie, the more it's kind of grown on me. I still don't think it's great, but inside of this super beautiful bloody mess is like a potential all-timer movie. There's something about it that I think if you just rearrange some things, it could be really, really great. But The Void, just the way it is still an alright watch. I would honestly recommend it if you like, not really body horror, but like, dead, humanoid, like weird creature things moving around, big giant monsters. But yeah, The Void was kind of fun. It wasn't the greatest, but I had a decent time watching it. I was invested. It just didn't have that extra oomph that it could have used. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on The Void in the comments. If you've ever seen it, if you haven't seen it, if you do go and check it out, let me know. I'll see you in the next video, whatever that may be. Who knows, maybe a trailer reaction, maybe another tier list. I don't know. Okay, goodbye.